Okay, we're here for our first of our knockout games. We were hoping to stream this game, but unfortunately we did have some issues with getting our tech to the event. So we've got this full YouTube video coverage to share instead. This was Chaos Hugs and his Skaven team, Wiels Varmits, versus Shepherd and his Dark Elf team, Divide and Conquer. Both were going into this with 3 wins. The Skaven had a slight TV advantage, so the Dark Elves did bring a keg and an extra coach into the match. Skaven won the toss, chose to receive first, and on the weather they rolled for a blizzard. For 2 teams that like to be mobile, this could be like an interesting outcome for the weather, which doesn't always happen. The kick scatters the ball pretty much to the halfway line, and the kickoff gave each coach a bribe. The Skaven got to work with some basic blocking and positioning, setting up a cage around the ball before attempting the pickup. But even with sure hands, the pickup got fumbled. It scattered to a player right on the front edge of the cage. They do manage to catch it, but they got very little support. In response, the Elves start to get into position and get a blitz on the ball carrier, securing the ball early into the opponent's drive. Into turn 2, the Skaven start trying to make things happen to recover from losing the ball early. The Rat Ogre is back to its normal form for the rest of the season, where it continues to play around at the Elves, but doesn't really do anything significant. The Dark Elves in return carry on with some cautious positioning, not trying to force too much yet. A Witch Elf did try and use its frenzy to surf a Gut Runner, but after the first set of block dice were rolled, they remembered that the Gut Runner has sidestep, and after not achieving much, decided to dodge and run away back into the safety of their own lines. Turn 3, an attempt to force the issue on the Dark Elf ball carrier. Gut Runner did attempt to dodge into its tackle zones, but it ended up getting stunned. Not to be outdone by this, the Dark Elves on their turn see an opportunity to fail to attempt a 2-up dodge, which they fail even with a reroll. Turn 4, the players starting to speculate on why the Rat Ogre doesn't want to ruin his nails this game, as it still refuses to do anything other than push people over. The rest of the team just tried to show this Rat Ogre how it's done, and alignment attempts a 1-dice blitz on the ball carrier, which does force him to drop the ball. The Elves are undeterred though and keep doing their elf thing and just prance around a bit before picking up the ball, and then foul the Gut Runner. You can never trust an elf to play fair. Turn 5, Skaven decide that they can be just as dirty as the Elves and get a foul in as well for a stun, and continue trying to set up in ways to delay the Elves and force an opening. The Dark Elves started turn with a block where they were actually unhappy to roll a pal on the first dice, so they wanted to push players around so they could set something else up later in the turn. But the rest of the turn they just advanced properly into the Skaven half. Turn 6, Skaven continue to try and throw bodies in the way as much as possible, leaving the Rat Ogre by himself, who, while he's unsupervised, decides it's a good turn to take a nap. The Elves in response try to move to the other side of the pitch for some freedom. Turn 7, neither team really achieved much at all other than positioning themselves around a bit. Turn 8, and the final turn of the first half, the Skaven going for an important blitz on the ball to try and do what they can to keep the Elves from scoring this half. The Elves, getting scared, decide to try and use dump off. They pass the ball to a different player and fumble it. The ball goes into the crowd throws the ball back into the pitch, and it gets caught by a Skaven. It's now the last turn of the first half, and the Skaven finally actually have ball control of their first drive. The Dark Elves see an opportunity that they could still score this turn. They manage to get the ball free, but they do fail the dodge, so that there is no scores. The first half finishes 0-0, and we go into the second half with just 9 players on the pitch for both teams. The kick goes deep into the Elf half of the pitch, and a quick snap is rolled, so the Elves manage to reposition slightly. Turn 9, and the Dark Elves do some basic blocks to clear off the line, and they start to move in and pick up the ball. The Skaven try and push forward into the Elf half to threaten the ball, but to very little effect. On turn 10, the Elves continue to try and pull back into their own half to play defensive. One of their players fails to dodge, nothing bad really happens. The Skaven in response try to go for a long blitz on the ball with a Gut Runner. They chose to re-roll the both down result, and instead they get a skull and end their turn. Turn 11, there's a lot more positioning for the Elves while the Skaven look for places to take advantage. They spy an opportunity for the Rat Ogre to surf a lineman, most likely reasoning that if the Rat Ogre can't injure them, maybe the crowd will. It wasn't any better. Turn 12, the Dark Elf Blitzer serves the Rat Ogre for revenge, and then they carry on their careful advancing up the pitch. We're now essentially into the 12th turn of Skaven playing defense, and they're just looking for anything they can do at this point, wondering if there are any dice left in their dice pool they could try, because so far none of them are breaking armour. Turn 13 to 15 is much more of this same slow push up the field for the Dark Elves. playing as cautiously as they can. The Skaven are trying everything they can to force something. The right guy decides the best way to help is probably by hitting his own teammate as much as it hits the opponents. We go into turn 16. It's the last turn of the game before we go into overtime. The Elves have finally finished their slow push upfield, and they actually do score, making it 1-0 to the Dark Elves. The Skaven have just one turn to try and equalise. They set off for the potential one-turn touchdown if they can have the dice go their way for a turn. The kick does scatter into good position. The kick-off table is rolled, and it becomes a timeout, so both teams get an extra turn. Vials Varmits are now confused by having 2 turns instead of 1. Quickly work out a new game plan for the combination of both their turns, and using their last reroll, they do manage to catch the ball and get an equaliser. As this is a knockout game, we do have to go to extra time when it's a draw. For the extra half, the Dark Elves do manage to be on the receiving, which is normally a very good sign in overtime. But, through a steady combination of positioning and throwing enough blocks at the problem, and finally finding the right dice in their dice pool, the Skaven were able to push back and they score on turn 7 of overtime, leaving the final score as a 2-1 win to Chaos Hugs and sending him through to the finals. On our next Monday, we are hoping to stream, which would be the match between the Greenwich Gorgers and Maximum Ogre Drive, or Schooly B and Fuzzy Debonair Monster. And then obviously the winner of that match will take on Chaos Hugs and his Vials Varmits in the finals, which we will also be attempting to stream. For those of you who enjoyed our coverage, there will also be reports and roundups from the South East Series that's taking part this year. The first event, the Kent Team Championships, have taken place. 4 of our club members went along, as well as a couple of other people that we do know from this league. And there will be full report videos from that coming up shortly. Anyone interested in taking part in future games, we do have a one-day event coming up on December the 7th. Tickets will be on sale for that, and there will be a link in the description. And of course, don't forget our normal stream schedule. On Tuesdays from 2 till 6, we will be playing through Rogue Trader. On Fridays from 8 PM, we'll be doing our modded 7 Day to Die server. And on Sundays from 8 PM, we are in Power World.